Hello, this is Peter Hislop from Shift Podcast. And again, I'm in conversation with my producer, my guide and my friend, Stuart Buckland. Hello, Stuart. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me again. Are you ready for more questions from me?
Absolutely. Relaxed and ready.
All right. I've got a very, some might say broad, others might say dumb question to start off with.
Excellent.
So you've been speaking about the concept of truth in the last 3 Monday episodes, and you've gotten quite passionate about it as well.
Yes.
Why is truth so important?
There are a number of reasons. Firstly, historically, some of the great thinking has been done on the basis of truth as its anchor. But more recently, companies have struggled with a relationship mechanism between senior executives and between the organisation and its customers. And they've landed on this basis of trust. So trust becomes, in a lot of organisations, the currency. So let's go off and have a leadership conference and let's come back with everyone using trust. We trust our people, and we get our customers to trust us. There was a very famous moment, or famous for me moment, after the Banking Royal Commission, when the CEO of a particular bank came out and said, we are going to earn the trust of our customers once again, and we're going to work very hard to re-earn that trust. The problem with that is I'm an Australian and I've been around 400 years or so, and I've never known an Australian who has ever trusted a bank. We've tolerated banks, but no matter where you are in Australia, there are very few people who trust banks. So I thought that was pretty silly. So this whole issue of trust, I think, is way too complicated a currency to deal with. We all have different ways of trust, and we all have different reactions to a breach of trust. For some, a breach of trust is, I've never heard of that person ever again. For others is, okay, second chance, that sort of thing. So what is another core currency that we can build organizations on and that we can run organizations on? And I think go back to the beginnings of the way we built societies and organizations, which was about truth. That's why truth.
So you went straight to the corporate world there. And you're talking about, I guess, core principles.
Yes.
Is it always important that the executive class believe the truth that the company is creating, or more just that they can convince their teams that they do?
Well, I think in that area, you need to differentiate between two things. You need to differentiate with what is truth. What is the actual truth? Where are we? What are we? What do we represent? How much do we owe? How much have we got? Versus anticipation, which is, we're going to be this big in 2 years' time. That's anticipation. But sometimes it's sold as truth. And in a lot of the ways that organizations present to the public, it's anticipation, not truth, but it sounds like truth.
Right.
And that's where I think you start running risks, because some of the stakeholders believe it's truth, and then 2 years later they say, well, hold on, it's gone. So I think coming back to the discipline of truth, but being honest and being able to say, this is truth, this is what we would like the future to look like. This is what we're building on the basis of truth, and we will see how it goes in the future. We have built this boat that we understand can go through ice. We hope to be able to build tours through ice in the future, but we're not saying we can.
So it can still be truth, just there's a practical truth now and there's an aspirational truth.
Well, let's not call it aspirational truth. Let's just call it aspirational.
Right.
It's not a truth. It's a belief.
But you've got to convince people that it will become true.
No.
No?
You've got to sell to people that there is an opportunity for them to get a benefit if the organisation is able to achieve what they aspire to. So if you look at the very clever investors in the world of IT, that sort of world, they will look at what the truth is, what is the product that this person's developing, But they will look aspirationally at the future and say, well, this is where it could go. Or that's too crowded a market, I'm not going to go there. To some extent, those people are more in touch with truth than the holders of so-called truth in some of the larger organisations. So these investors are a bit more, if you like, conscious of truth because quite often, ordinarily, it's their own money.
So there's a line of truth somewhere where you might nudge it slightly to stakeholders because you need them to invest. So you need, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, are there percentages? Can you go, this is our truth 80%, but we're just giving it a little bit of flourish just for the sake of getting some investment over the line or that sort of thing?
Sounds like to me you're sort of kicking something under the table to have it move across the camera. No.
No.
It's either truth or it's not. There
Yeah.
aren't half-truths.
Now, that's what you believe, but do you see that generally with the executive class?
No.
Yeah.
I think the executive, and what I've been trying to say, the executive class, and I think anyone in control of communities, we've lost touch with the importance of truth.
Mm.
And the reason for that is that we don't do the hard enough work to find it. If you work hard at something, if you do the deep work that I talk about in the podcast, truth will come up and say, "G'day." And you will have that moment say, wow, I've got that.
Yeah.
It's a huge moment. And truth is, I think Solange said, truth will then introduce you to the next truth and the next truth. It's an extraordinary thing, truth. When you find truth, it's a wow moment.
Well, were you saying in the podcast that truth is not a possession, it's a pathway?
Yes.
And the entrance to that pathway is not always clear, is it?
No.
And so when you're engaged by somebody, what's the first step to nudging them towards that pathway?
Well, the first thing to do is to get them to understand how important thinking is, how important respectful thinking is, how they create an environment in which they can get rid of distractions, they can find silence and really focus down on a problem until they find the truth. And if they are able to use that kind of thinking as a habit, then they can find truth and they can find the connections between truths. The really important thing is once you've found your first truth, you'd start in a world, as long as you keep giving it respect, you start in a world of truth connections. You start seeing another truth and another truth. So scientific discoveries, one scientific discovery has often led to another discovery in another discipline. It's because people are respecting the thought process that goes into the pursuit of truth.
In your opinion, do you need to have that mindset about truth to be a successful leader?
Absolutely. And that's what's causing, I think, all of the problems. We've moved away from the old disciplines of the Solanges and the 16 precepts, but we haven't replaced them. And so what I do with people in groups or singular is to find a set of precepts that works for that person so that they can start thinking with depth. They can challenge assumptions as part of what they're doing, not just to solve a particular problem. It becomes a mindset. It becomes the way they work. And if we can get that with some consistency, then we're building a new brand of CEOs and leaders and board directors.
When you engage with somebody, is it clear early on whether they have the sort of personality that's compliant with that kind of work?
Yes, it is fairly clear, but what's more important is, can I change it? Can I offer them enough that they say, oh, okay, I do want that. This is a real change for me. How do I do that?
Yeah.
Because quite often our leaders have come up through a particular process, a particular, if you like, vocation, and now they're asked to solve much harder, more difficult, wider problems. They have to change their thinking. And so it is an opportunity for them to re-engage with the old-fashioned ways of thinking, as long as they're willing to create a world, not unlike the way Aquinas created a world for his brother who was going into the monastery. Allow us to work together, coach and client, to create that world where they can optimally think. A few years ago, the boards latched onto it from some probably American consultant, and they'd say, okay, we'll give our CEOs a day off a month to go and think deeply. Technical solution to a complex problem, bound not to work.
Yeah. Can't just say go and think deeply.
You have to use it as part of your everyday life.
Yeah.
And that leads on to an area where I would love to go, but I'm not so sure whether I will, which is moving away from the digital world, moving away from laptops and starting to write things down. Because that really does, that connection between mind and pen and hand and paper really does support creating a world of thought.
Well, I'm doing my best here, as you can see.
As I can, yeah, yes. But you do have a laptop sitting across the room.
I do.
There.
Let's not worry about that. On to a more depressing question, I guess.
Sure.
Oxford's 2016 word of the year was post-truth. In a world where that word is even a thing, how you're fighting an uphill battle, aren't you, really, with trying to get people to think about truth, to care about truth, and to use truth. Do you feel a bit deflated by that sort of...
I can't allow myself to be deflated because this probably is my last battle. If you're going to follow this idea of deep thinking, of attacking complex problems with deep thinking rather than with technical solutions, then you look at something like that and step over it and keep walking. It's like the word woke. You step over it and you keep walking. It deserves no sense of tolerance at all. There's no respect for something like that. So yes, in answer, if that's the way the world is going, that's fine. But I think at some stage people will start going back to this idea of deep thinking. I know where I've introduced it in organisations, there have been people who have jumped on it. I was given a challenge a number of years ago by a CEO who said, okay, if you want to bring that into the organisation, to the senior leadership team, I want you to run it through the IT team first. Which was him being a smart aleck, because they were on paper the people less likely. I got a phone call end of last year from one of those guys. He said, I'm still using paper, Peter, and I'm still in IT. I love it. And he wanted to talk to me about talking to his new team. So there is a stickiness to this. There is a bit like getting into using paper and remembering what it was like to do finger painting.
Yeah.
How satisfying that was.
Well, I cleaned up my office yesterday and found a whole bunch of papers from 20 years ago that if they were files on a computer, I might not have kept them.
Yes.
But because there was more importance on them at the time, I've held on to them for 20 years and enjoyed reading them very much. So, yeah, I agree with you that there's a certain more important feeling that you give to something that you've taken the time to write down, right?
Absolutely. You can come back to it, and I think you'd go deeper and deeper. But there are also other benefits. I heard from the daughter of a colleague of mine that she had discovered when they were moving her parents from one house to another. She discovered that her father, every book that he'd ever bought, he'd written in the front of the book the date that he bought it, where he bought it, what city he bought it in, and why he thought it a good idea to buy the book.
That's great.
And he had hundreds of books. And that's history.
And I wonder if he should have added at the end of the book whether he agreed with himself at the start.
Yes, absolutely. But I think that kind of story should really ignite in people the memory of writing, the memory of drawing, the memory of mind mapping with coloured pens and pencils. Now, the modern day, the under 30s, haven't ever experienced that. And so I'd like to get some of these groups in a very large room and make them finger paint for a day. Let them think about what they're doing in terms of problems and challenges and make them finger paint it. Because some of them have never done that. Some of them don't even like answering telephones. Some of them are switching themselves into such a narrow digital world that they realise they don't have to think about these complex problems. And then they sit back and rely, well, AI will fix those. Well, not quite.
Mm. This is something we'll talk about at another point, but maybe briefly here, you're bringing up AI. Where does truth sit in a world where AI is doing a lot of thinking for us?
They're different worlds.
Mm.
AI cannot recognise or land a truth that is applicable to human beings. And hopefully will never be able to. It'll land facts.
Yeah.
And it will try and sell strategy in terms of facts.
And frame it for you in a positive, overly positive way.
When talking about truth, for me, the interesting issue is how tied up with truth is the way that you discover the truth. Is there another way apart from deep thinking?
Mm.
And I think that we would have already known by the people who spent centuries developing these systems of the precepts of Thomas Aquinas to find a quicker way through, and there isn't. So I think one of the issues about truth is we have to slow down. We have to think about it. Speed is no longer safe. Accepting that distractions surround you. Oh, I get a lot of emails. People keep tapping me on the shoulder wanting to talk to me. We've tolerated that for some reason. But can I now say to those who are in this world, to those who are making decisions in this world, isn't that kind of interruption dangerous? If you were doing an operation on someone's eye or heart, is it tolerable for people to have a walkthrough in the operating theatre? Is it tolerable for a loud argument to break out between the nurses? Or someone taps a surgeon on the shoulder and say, "Hey, listen, how was golf last week?"
Yeah.
And while he's cutting away and sewing away, "Oh, it's fine," but et cetera, et cetera. Why do we tolerate this? We all acknowledge that there are complex problems. And I don't want to be part of the solution to those problems. That's not my world. What I want to say is we're going about it the wrong way. And there is huge evidence to say that this tolerance for distraction, this tolerance for speed, this tolerance for technical solutions to complex problems is not acceptable.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's just not acceptable. It's dangerous. And there is an enormous amount of evidence to show how dangerous it is. So what are we doing? Why aren't we slowing down and saying, okay, let's think deeply about this and let's make sure, not by saying, hey, listen, Fred, have you thought deeply about this before we take that decision? Oh, yes, I have. Let's make sure that Fred and his colleagues have the system in place, have the discipline in place, so that the men and women who are making these decisions are truly being attracted to that connection between truths and the connection to a truth, not what you would like something to be.
And so that's a core of your coaching?
Absolutely. I mean, I am fat.
Join the club.
I can, and I have to understand that. But I can't watch some of the ads on television and say, well, you will be this in the future. The only way I can make a decision like that is to accept it. And we don't want to sort of go into it, but my history, denial, which is what we're doing, but denial is an alcoholic's bloodline to some degree until he or she can't deny any longer. So I've lived that. We're denying on a corporate level.
Do you think the strength of how you feel about truth now, part of that might be fueled by having that denial for so long or not facing truth for so long?
Look, I don't know. I really don't know. But I do know that there is a rightness about this idea of analog. And I feel so deeply that there is a wrongness about digital.
Mm.
There is
an irony about saying that on a podcast. But...
Oh, yes, absolutely. But you have to go to where the people are.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was to the old days, people used to stand on a soapbox in the Domain and talk about this.
We could do that next.
We could do that next, except none of the people I want to talk to about this are going to be wandering through the Domain on a Saturday afternoon.
All right. Lastly, you ask this question and leave it hanging in the truth episodes. If not truth, then what? That's what I'm asking you.
If not truth, then just give it up. Walk away. Wait for it to happen. Because anything else that we're building is going to hurt people, even more than it's hurting people now. It's going to dislodge structures and communities, and ultimately it's just going to fall over.
Mm.
There's enough problem at the moment that people can't deal with and don't turn their attention to, that we need to turn our attention to. The core about community, the core about how we deal with each other is not being dealt with, and that's got a very, very short life, I would have thought. The historians will come out and tell you, if the communities are fighting amongst themselves, in history what's happened was almost always destruction. So we've got to start turning it around now.
We need more people to care.
We need more people to care, exactly right. But we need more people to care about dealing with complexity. And so we need people at the top of communities and businesses who have the intellectual agility to lead this, to get people out of their comfort zones. They're the people who need to make the change.
Hopefully some of those people are watching or listening to this. And
please, I'd love to talk about it to you in groups or one-on-one. As you can see, or hope you can see, there is a passion in this. There is an urgency in it.
You've been listening/watching to Shift. Monday episodes is Peter solo, and Thursday episodes, interviews.
Thank you very much for your time.
Share it with anyone you think might be interested.